welcome back to my channel. It's Lawrence if you're new here. And today I'm doing every 2025 WWE PLE special, best match and worst match. So let's get right into it. 2025, the first pay-per-view was the Raw debut on Netflix. In my opinion, the best match was Roman Reigns versus Solo Sikoa, and the worst match was Jey Uso versus Drew McIntyre. Next up was NXT New Year's Evil. Best match was obviously Julia versus Roxanne Perez. The worst match was Lexis King versus Charlie Dempsey. Saturday night's main event, XXX pretty sure that's 38, I think. Best match, LA Knight versus Carmelo Hayes, because Melo don't miss. And the worst match, Braun Strowman versus Jacob Fatu. They aren't really bad or anything, but I've never been a huge fan of Braun Strowman's wrestling style. Next up, the Royal Rumble. Best match was Cody Rhodes versus Kevin Owens. The worst match was the Men's Royal Rumble match. I hated the Men's Royal Rumble match and the Women's Royal Rumble match. The 2025 Rumble matches were terrible. They were like the 2018. They were bad. 2016 was pretty good. But yeah, Jey Uso should not have won. CM Punk should have. Next up, NXT Vengeance Day. Best match, Julia versus Bayley versus Roxanne Perez versus Cora Jade. Which was, Bayley went down to NXT for part of the year. And she fought in a banger match versus Julia, Roxanne Perez, and Cora Jade, which was the best match of that show. The worst match was Stephanie Vaquer versus Fallon Henley. Wasn't anything about Vaquer. I just don't really like how Fallon Henley wrestles. Next up, we have Elimination Chamber Toronto. Best match, Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn. Hands down, that is the greatest match, possibly of the year. That was an amazing match. Speaking of greatest matches of the year, look out for my best and worst match of every year for the 2020s video, coming soon. The worst match was Nia Jax and Candice LeRae versus Trish Stratus and Tiffany Stratton. It was just, that match could have been on any episode of Monday Night Raw. Didn't need to be on a pay-per-view as good as Elimination Chamber. Elimination Chamber was a very good pay-per-view. And I think that match kind of went against the whole greatness of the pay-per-view. Next up, we have NXT Roadblock. Best match, Stephanie Vaquer versus Julia. Truly, Julia and Stephanie Vaquer are some of the best wrestlers in WWE right now. Them and Io Sky, some of the best wrestlers. And the worst match was Jordynne Grace versus Roxanne Perez. I'm not really a huge fan of Jordynne Grace. I think she wrestles too, clunky-y. But, I don't think that's a word. But that's why it's in the last, not anything else. Anyway, NXT Roadblock was a really good pay-per-view, so I couldn't think of any other match. Next up, NXT Stand and Deliver. Best match, Oba Femi versus Javon Evans versus Trick Williams. Why did I say it like that? I said it like that because I didn't see the versus Trick Williams part. Then the worst match was Fatal Influence versus Gigi Dolan and Tatum Paxley versus Cora Jade and Roxanne Perez versus The Metaphor. Cora Jade and Roxanne Perez were better when they were feuding. They had a great match at, what was it? Was it Halloween Havoc? Was it Halloween Havoc? I think it was Halloween Havoc, and they had a great match. It was really good. Next up, WrestleMania 41, Night 1. Best match was Seth freaking Rollins versus Roman Reigns versus CM Punk. The worst match was El Grande Americano versus Rey Fenix. Next up, WrestleMania 41, Night 2. Best match, Io Sky versus Bianca Belair versus Becky Lynch. No, wait, I read that wrong. Io Sky versus Bianca Belair versus Rhea Ripley. And the worst match was John Cena versus Cody Rhodes. So for WrestleMania season, I guess I was really liking triple threats. For Backlash, best match, Lyra Valkyria versus Becky Lynch. That's where I got Becky Lynch from for the last match. And the worst match was Gunther versus Pat McAfee. Gunther should have retired Pat McAfee there. Next up, Saturday night's main event, XXXIX. Pretty sure that's 39. Best match is Damian Priest versus Drew McIntyre. And the worst match is Zelina Vega versus Chelsea Green. I've never been a huge fan of Zelina Vega. I know she's not in WWE now, but I was never really a huge fan of her wrestling. Next up, NXT Battleground. Best match, Trick Williams versus Joe Hendry. Those two can really put on a banger. Go see the match at TNA Slammiversary. That was really good. And then the worst match was Hank and Tank versus The Culling. Next up, AAA and WWE Worlds Collide, Los Angeles. Best match, Ethan Page versus Javon Evans versus Laredo Kid versus Rey Fenix. And then the worst match was Stephanie Vaquer and Lola Vice versus Chick Tormenta and Dallas. Money in the Bank. Best match, Seth Rollins versus Penn. I don't know why I didn't just put the men's Money in the Bank match. Well, best match was the men's Money in the Bank match. And the worst match was Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso versus John Cena and Logan Paul. Night of Champions. Best match, John Cena versus CM Punk. Worst match, Jade Cargill versus Asuka. Night of Champions was a very good pay-per-view. So, Jade Cargill versus Asuka was just the bottom. Was not really the worst match. It was not a bad match by any standard, but it was just the worst of all of them. NXT Great American Bash. Best match, Ethan Page versus Ricky Saints. And worst match was Javon Evans versus Jasper Troy. Javon Evans is my favorite wrestler, and one of my favorite wrestlers. Jasper Troy, I do not like his wrestling style. He wrestles too clunkily and slowly. He just, seems like he can't do it. Yeah. Next up, Saturday night's main event. I quit with writing the numbers, I guess. Best match, Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre. Worst match, B-Fab and Beechin versus The Secret Harvest. Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre was just two people that are going to be in the Hall of Fame fighting, so it was great. Except for, most matches like that are great, except for John Cena versus Cody Rhodes. That was pretty bad. Next up, Evolution 2. Best match, Naomi versus Io Sky versus Rhea Ripley. I said Naomi there because she cashed in. Worst match, JC Jane versus Jordan Grace. The Io Sky versus Rhea Ripley versus Naomi match was amazing. Chef's kiss, amazing. It was the best match there. Next up, SummerSlam New Jersey, Night 1. Best match, CM Punk versus Gunther. And the worst match, Sami Zayn versus Karrion Kross. I didn't like Sami Zayn and Karrion Kross' whole feud. I feel like it went on too long. Because it started when? WrestleMania? And it's still going at SummerSlam? Yeah, that's too long. SummerSlam New Jersey Night 2. Best match, Naomi versus Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky. They had a rematch, I guess. And the worst match was the Wyatt Six versus Andrade and Rey Fenix versus DIY versus Flaxium versus the Motor City Machine Guns versus the Street Profits. that match was really bad. Next up, NXT Heatwave. Best match, Obafemi versus Javon Evans. And worst match, Chelsea Green and Ethan Page versus Tyra May Steele and Tavian Heights. I'm not a huge fan of intergender tag team matches. Because doesn't really you really can't get an intergender team that has a good pair with both of their opponents. If you do, that's really lucky. But it's pretty hard too. Clash in Paris. Best match, Seth Rollins versus CM Punk versus Jey Uso versus LA Knight. Worst match, Becky Lynch versus Nikki Bella. I liked multi-man matches, and I still do. And that was just overall a really good match. And I wasn't a huge fan of Becky Lynch versus Nikki Bella. And now we have AAA and WWE Worlds Collide, Las Vegas this time. Best match, Dominic Mysterio versus El Hijo del Vikingo. And the worst match, Pagano and Psycho Clown versus Grayson Waller and Kofi Kingston. I know before they were released, Grayson Waller was kind of part of the New Day, but I did not like that whole angle. That was a pretty bad angle. Next up, we have NXT Homecoming. Best match, Rhea Ripley, Stephanie McMahon, and Lyra Valkyria versus Fatal Influence. And the worst match, Thea Hale versus Kendall Gray. Kendall Gray is a pretty good worker. I'm not a huge fan of Thea Hale, but NXT Homecoming was a very good show. So that was the worst match on it, but it wasn't a bad match by any standards. Next up, WrestlePalooza. Best match, CM Punk and AJ Lee versus Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch. That was an amazing match. And you guys all know what I'm going to say was the worst match. Brock Lesnar versus John Cena. That kind of ruined their feud. It was a really good feud before, and then that kind of ruined it. Okay, what's next? WWE Evolve Succession. Best match, Kendall Gray versus Callie Armstrong. Worst match, Jackson Drake versus Bryce Donovan. Kendall Gray is really the future of NXT. Sorry, I'm tired. It's early. It's 6 in the morning. But Kendall Gray really is the face. Is the future face of WWE. And the worst match, Jackson Drake versus Bryce Donovan. I don't really care about either of those people, so I just kind of skimmed through that match. It wasn't the match I really wanted to see on that pay-per-view. But yeah. Next up, NXT No Mercy. Best match, Jacy Jayne versus Lola Vice. And the worst match, Jordynne Grace versus Blake Monroe. I'm not a huge fan of Blake Monroe. I know a lot of people like Blake Monroe, but I think her character's a bit too over the top. Next up, we have NXT versus TNA Showdown. Best match, Hardy Boys versus Dark State. Worst match, Ethan Page versus Mustafa Ali. I don't like Mustafa Ali. Next up, we have Crown Jewel Perth. Best match, Stephanie Vaquer versus Tiffany Stratton. Obviously, two superb workers. And the worst match, Bronson Reed versus Roman Reigns. That was just, the styles don't fit. It wasn't a very good match. Next up, NXT Halloween Havoc. Best match, Dark State versus Broken Hardys. That was an amazing match. And the Broken Rules match, yeah, that was great. And then the worst match, Blake Monroe versus Zarya. I guess I had a few things ago, I'm not really a huge fan of Blake Monroe. Next up, Saturday night's main event, and I went back to writing the numbers for some reason. XLI. That's 41. It's 41, I think. Best match, Cody Rhodes versus Drew McIntyre. And the worst match, Bayley versus Raquel Rodriguez. I'm a huge fan of... I didn't like... it was the best match out of the show. Saturday night's main event was not a good show. That Cody Rhodes versus Drew McIntyre was the best match at the show. I'm a fan of Bayley and, Bayley and Raquel Rodriguez, but they just didn't really put on a great match that day. Next up, NXT Gold Rush Week 1. Best match, Ethan Page and Chelsea Green versus Joe Hendry and Thea Hale. You know how I was saying earlier about how it's hard to find an intergender tag team that really fit with their opponents? Those four do. They were really great. And the worst match, Dark State versus Javon Evans and Leon Slater. After the whole Hardys thing, I was kind of sick of Dark State, so I didn't really like any more of their matches. NXT Gold Rush Week 2, best match, Fallon Henley versus Zarya. Zarya is a pretty good worker. The worst match, Kendall Gray versus Lady Reed. Don't get me wrong, I'm a Kendall Gray fan, but Lady Reed just isn't good. I don't like Lady Reed. I don't really like Fatal Influence as a whole. But, yeah. Survivor Series War Games. Best match, Team Rhea versus Team Asuka. The worst match, Dominic Mysterio versus John Cena. It was what it was, but, with Liv Morgan returning. But, it could have been better. And I didn't really like it. It was either that or the men's War Games. Then the final match, Saturday night's main event, John Cena's last match. This is going to be an unpopular opinion. Best match was Dragon Styles versus Leon Slater and Javon Evans. Leon Slater and Javon Evans. Javon Evans and Leon Slater and AJ Styles and Dragon Lee they can all put on a superb match against basically anyone. There are a few people that they can't, but basically anyone. And then the worst match was Oba Femi versus Cody Rhodes because of the DQ. I did not like that. Thank you guys. This is going to be a series where this video, I'm going to do this exact same concept of video till some year in the 80s. Probably 84 is when I'm going to do it. Is when I'm going to end this series. But please subscribe because this was pretty hard to make, and because I had to watch every pay-per-view. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.